Welcome! So today we'll be exploring play, stems, and expression. Also, as we go through, I will be describing images throughout the presentation to keep things accessible to any blind folk who may be participating. Totally here for accessibility, and you will be seeing some stems on my part as I also encourage you to regulate however you need to. We are here for that. This is a autistic led event anyway. My name is Riah. To the left of the screen, you'll see a headshot of me smiling, beaming with joy, and wearing burgundy long sleeve sweater and burgundy pants. And I'm rocking blue and purple color in my hair. I was super proud of that picture. I am excited to share this information with you. And if you are interested in finding me, you can do so on Twitter at Lil Riah, two Rise. And there's also my website, riahsweirdjourney.com. I received backstory. I received my official autism diagnosis at the age of 25, which was last year, July. I am an aspiring dance movement therapist, and I have a high interest in helping people to heal and develop their movement. I also am super obsessed about helping people to understand the significance of the stimming. It's something that everybody does. It's just a body thing. Currently, I create accessibility conscious curriculum for my dance and creative movement students. Although, of course, right now it's COVID, so I do not do these things for the safety of my babies. Right before the pandemic did roll in, I had just, funny enough, rolled out of autistic burnout. But I am excited that I'm able to help people more in the communities that I exist within. Um, Something that I will talk about more in this presentation is that last year I was also able to put on my first autistic space event called Express Unbound, and I'm so looking forward to continuing to create autistic led accessible social spaces in the future. As you can tell from my bio, this journey is definitely within my special interests. So I'm super glad that you are going to embark on this adventure with me. Yay! Playful out. Be open, be curious, be explorative. Um, see how see how all this applies from our perspective, and then also explore how this applies to you as well. To the right of the screen, we have an image of the adorable Knox, who is an autistic Afro-Latino child, smiling into the camera. He is wearing a blue and green striped shirt and has a blue body sock wrapped around him on top of his head. Before we really dive in, I do require a few things from you to play full out. I put a whole lot of love in this, and I do not want you to miss something that may be important to you. To get the most out of this workshop, I need you to leave any preconceived notions of what you believe autistic people should be like out the door. Allow yourself to be curious and even play, trying to see things from your autistic loved one's perspective. I also invite you to explore how this information, um, how it relates to you as well personally, and how you might be able to apply it to your own life experiences. Because autistic people are humans and you are human, and so therefore anything that can benefit us can also benefit you. Holistic thinking, yay. All right, let's go. This is the flow of our presentation. What is play? Why is it important? How autistics fight through mistreatment when it comes to accessing the play that we do need. What is stimming? How does stress play a part in our need to regulate, which is a part of stimming? Understanding sensory awareness and developing a sensory lifestyle and having fun. I'm excited. Section 1, play. Why it's important and how it applies to autistics. In one of my favorite books, Play, How It Shapes the Brain and Opens the Imagination and Invigorates the Soul, Christopher Vaughan attempts to define what play is. In doing so, he was able to construct a list, which is visibly represented on the slide, that describes the properties of play. Apparently, purposeness, voluntary, inherent attraction, freedom from time, diminished consciousness of self, and I will mess up this word, improvisational potential. Laugh if you need to, that's okay, it was hilarious. And continuation desire. Like telling a joke, play is about the experience. Play is all fun, but this doesn't diminish its importance. Play is a integral part of development, especially in earlier years, but also for the whole of our lives. Through play, we're able to learn things like who we are, what the rules of the world are, how we can best work, how we can connect with others, how we can see the world, and all of that with lessen pressure of failure. Because we do know that under distress, it makes it harder for us to think and learn. Many professionals that work with autistics are aware of the importance of play and development, but some very important contexts get lost almost up front. To quote Dr. Brown, if its purpose is more important than the act of doing it, it's probably not play. This is important to be aware of because play suppression and deprivation will both feed into rigidity and mental health conditions, which are both things that we try to navigate around. It's play that allows us to be explorative, experimental, and more adaptable, which plays a significant part in human survival. Next slide. The 7 types of play. On the slide, we have listed attunement play, body play, and movement, object play, social play, which is highlighted in orange, imaginative play and pretend play, storytelling and narrative play, and creative play. I often find myself concerned by how these very important principles of developing and being are constantly taken away and limited from autistic kids and people. The idea that if an autistic person is to properly develop, then they need to learn how to play in ways that would properly develop them, which is almost always through a neurotypical lens. Except the way we play is best for the way our autistic minds develop. Of the many kinds of play, there are 7 core types, as listed. Attunement play is believed to be the founding block and is based on emotional connection that can be created by play cues from infancy. Body play and movement is the exploration of spatial awareness and locomotor. Object play happens with the playfulness used with any object. Social play is recognized as interpersonal play. Imaginative play and pretend play, of course, is how new worlds are created and explored. Storytelling, narrative play is how inner stories and stories of others can be explored. And lastly, creative play is when we create new things from the resources around us. All these kinds of play can interlap. More importantly, autistics have been constantly made aware of how we supposedly don't fit into these correctly. While I was reading this list off, some of you probably picked up on how the descriptors may not fully align with how you've seen autistics participate in these modes. And you're right. These play categories exist within the autistic experience, but they look different. And I want to remind you to be careful not to impose expectations of normal play, play according to the neural majority, because it's not the only way to play. Atonement play. The description I have provided is emotional connection, building blocks of play. There is a black and white icon to the left of the text of a bigger heart that is close to a smaller heart. The bigger heart isn't filled in, but the smaller heart is. With attunement play, the assumption that an autistic baby should cue back in a typical sense could leave a parent feeling discouraged. An autistic child is more likely to be overwhelmed by the surroundings, that cues and cueings maybe seem to be missed. Eye contact could also cause physical pain, and touch could cause overwhelming sensory feedback. What seems like a child not wanting to connect could very easily be an autistic child coming to the grips of an overwhelming environment. Cues may be given and missed, and some involuntary behaviors may be mistaken as cues. It's a learning part for both sides, really. The title is Body, Play, and Movement. The description is Spatial and Locomotor Exploration. And there is a black and white icon of a child sticking their tongue out as they stand on one foot with the arm stretched out. And there are music notes above them. Naturally, body play and movement may look different in an autistic child because of the many different motor and spatial related comorbids that we may experience. Movement is a complex series of neurophysical and neurocognitive connections, and even the way we're able or aren't able to conceptualize our body will go into how we explore it. Later in this presentation, we will also get into how sensory processing affects the way we interact with our bodies. What may be fun for some may be sensory nightmare for others. Introspection, proprioception, and vestibular feedback will play a part in this for sure as well. Also, be mindful, especially for non speaking autistics, the potential disconnection from the body to control body movements. Make sure that you are aware of providing gross motor alternatives to fine motor activities when needed, and that at times lack of body control could be a part of their experience that play and movement based therapies can be of assistance to. Title is Object Play. Description is problem solving through exploring the function of objects. To the right, there are 3 Lego icons. 2 of them are black, and 1 of them is outlined showing the white background. There are many a story of autistics on how our object play is often corrected. And this issue definitely does overlap with imaginative and pretend play. The taboo of autistic kids and people lining up toys and autistics playing through close observation, again, it's not up to anyone else to determine what is play for someone. And just because it doesn't look as if it's serving a purpose for the way you process and see the world does not mean that it's not beneficial. Fun is for the sake of their enjoyment. It's not for our ability to conceptualize what they're doing with it. When it comes to autistic kids being blocked for doing such things, such as lining up or stacking up things in play settings, it becomes obvious that the priority is them passing as a non-autistic person, but being non-autistic isn't a skill. Problem solving is, which is what you get from awesome, fun, stackable lining up playtime. The title is Imaginative and Pretend Play, and the description is Exploring Inner and Outer Worlds. On the edge of the Y of play, there is a black and white wizard hat icon, which I think is super cute, that's hanging on the side. The hat is adorned with stars, and there are lines and sparkles coming off of the side of the hat to signify its magicalness. Whew. We also know that when it comes to imaginative play, autistics are more likely to create their own inner worlds to cope with the confusion and the stress of their outer world. Things like daydreaming is a light form of disassociation that a lot of people, non-autistic as well, participate in. Um, I personally remember how until a few years ago, I actually lived within my imaginative world. Like if I was bored, I'd go into my world. If I was overwhelmed, I'd go into my world. If I had almost any free time, I'd go into my own world. And that may seem silly, but really it was because it made sense for me to go off and interact with the characters that I knew would understand me. And I've observed that autistics are so used to being tossed aside and socially mistreated that it can make more sense for us to just retreat into our own world. And I've also observed this from a few of the autistic students I have worked with. A great way of interacting with this when invited non-intrusively is to be open and excited when your autistic person does open up to sharing their inner world with you. Play with it as much as they allow you to. Ask questions. Autistic people love talking about the things we love. um, I've seen autistic, imaginative, and pretend play blossom through forms such as fan fiction, D&D, comics, and performance. But the key is that it's something that they want to do and they enjoyed. The moment that the additional idea of make this so that they can be neurotypical is the moment that it will start being functional. Storytelling and narrative play. The title I have for that is Navigating Inner Stories and Relating Them to the Stories of Others, Communication. There is a black and white icon of a book that has sparkles near its top and left bottom right corners. Storytelling and narrative play is so important to language and communication development. And because of that, I would like to take a pause for a minute on discussing play to highlight the importance of access to communication, especially for our non speaking and non verbal autistic family. So, to the left, we have an image of kind of like a mind map where it walks us through the different forms of what is AC. So we have facial expressions, gestures, emojis, texting, communication devices, and sign language. As you can probably tell, like you've already used and accessed many forms of AAC. You just didn't associate it with it being a communication need. And to the right, we have the statement that is communication should be a human right. And we'll be going over the definitions of nonverbal, non-speaking, um, how non-speech dependent plays into it, selective mutism, as well as autistic overload. Non-speaking is the preferred label for those who cannot speak orally or cannot reliably depend on the ability to speak orally. And nonverbal is a preferred label for autistics who cannot take in or put out verbal concepts such as labels or letters or words, or cannot reliably do so. Speaking orally is not the only way that communication should be valued, and it shouldn't be prioritized in spite of bringing in alternative forms of communication or AAC. This is of high importance because humans depend on connection to survive, and being able to communicate who you are, your needs, your wants, however it may be, it is essential to our well being. Non-speaking and nonverbal autistics have so much insight that they can add to this world, and it really is a disservice to everyone that they are too often assumed to be incompetent when they simply haven't been given the tools that they need to communicate. In addition, typically speaking and verbal autistics can also experience non-speaking and nonverbal moments or bouts. So access to AAC and understanding our needs to access it is really a large benefit and priority to and for all of the community. Back to play. Books. Reading can be play, and it brilliantly overlaps into imaginative play at that. For quite a few autistics, books are home for them, And that's where they can find their comfort and clarity in. So when caretakers and teachers tell them that they need to go out and play, and in doing so, they snatch the book for them, why would you do that? No, like it was perfectly beautiful play. Um, if they're enjoying it, then they're able to define it as a play for themselves. Speaking of books, and of course, all these things that I've talked about can also apply to TV and movies and such. Scripting, it is a beautiful communication tool. We know that even within typical development, scripting is a what assists in language development. So why would we then fault autistics for needing that more or for longer? Even neurotypical script well into adulthood. It's just less stigmatized. I've been pleased to hear from autistic elders who are well into their 40s and 50s and moving on, that they've never stopped depending on scripts. They just acquired such a large collection of them that speech seems fluid. Something that I also really enjoy to share is that I had the privilege of meeting with a autistic behavioral therapist. Her name is Joy Johnson, and she had commented on how echolalia in scripting wouldn't be seen as so dysfunctional if people would just learn to crack the code, which would help to understand where the script may have come from, which would contextualize what it can mean instead of extinguishing it. I encourage you to look into ways to play and connect through scripting and echolalia. Creative play, endless possibilities. To the right of the screen, there is a light bulb and it has like kind of like a brain. And the light bulb's on, so there's like light, the line showing that there's light. Out of all the different forms of play that we went through before, just imagine the tinkering that happens from any of them, whether it be putting on a show or completely deconstructing a microwave just to like reconstruct it in some other form, which I feel that some parents probably could attest to that actually happening in real life. Um, when we create, we are applying what we know with what we want to figure out. And in doing so, we create new worlds. We're exploring, we're expressing who we are, and there's an enjoyment to that, which, yes, can be translated into skill accusation, but you don't want to force that on when it's play because you'll be moving an essential piece of development from their experience. Let them play. I promise you, when play is done right, it helps to integrate into everything else. And I encourage you to reflect on how the things that you do for the fun of it have impacted the way how you see the world and connect with the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. Social play, finally. This is where we're going to continue discussing um, for the rest of the topic of this specific play topic. To the right of the screen, there are three hands that are being raised. One is red, one looks like a purple blue, and one is pink. So quick share. Recently, I did an informal survey on the Twitter, where I had asked autistics the question, who sincerely wishes that they had someone to teach them how to play when they were younger? The choices that were available were, I was content with play and please help me play. Uh, the reason for me starting this survey is because I was at a point where I was growing frustrated by the content created by autism professionals, where they were expressing their frustrations with parallel play and discussing how their clients needed them to learn how to play. And I really I don't like saying things out of assumption, and so I needed perspective. And the feedback that I needed was very generously given. I was really appreciative of the colorfulness and the vulnerability in the responses. Both those that said that they were content and those who said that they weren't content started by contextualizing that they didn't want someone who to force neurotypical play on them. But even those who said that they were content with play that they had in their childhood shared that it would have been nice to have clarifying guidance such as what things meant as cues and suggested ways on interacting with those cues, more clarities on the rules of games, suggesting new kinds of games and play without forceful intent, and being respectful of the need to process new things and information that would be introduced to them. So again, like, we like to have fun. We just don't want to be forced to do the things that you think are fun. Moving on to the next slide. Social stages of play. This is great because we're starting to get to the meat of what I really enjoy talking about when it comes to play and autism. In 1929, an American sociologist and researcher by the name of Dr. Mildred Parton, uh, they theorized the 6 social stages of play as a part of their doctoral dissertation. Uh, I will note that if you look her up, you will not see her with her doctor's title, which I think is weird because of the fact that this is written in her doctoral. Um, Today, it is still cited as a strong source to understand how kids develop from birth to 5 years, although this is a process that carries on throughout our entire lives. Each of these descriptions are simplified versions to remembering the concept of each stage. So we have unoccupied play, which is about age 0 to 3 months, and that I call pre-play stimming. Independent is age 3 months to 2.5 years old, which is focused on playing on your own. Also, for like pre-play stimming, if it makes more sense, like it's because it's not yet play, but they're still interacting with the things around them. And it's very stimmy, like a kid putting a foot in their mouth. It's kind of like that. Uh, Onlooker play, age 2.5 to 3.5 years old, which is watching others play. Parallel play, which is age 3.5 to 4, which is playing near. Associative play, which is ages 4 to 4.5 years old, which is playing with different goals, and cooperative play, which is age 4.5 to 5 years old, which is playing with some goals. And again, I remember the last time I explained this to somebody, and they were like, "Dear God, I am delayed on my play. Like I am a grown adult. Why I don't do the things?" So just reminding you that these stages are not going to reflect everyone, and that this is just meant to be used as a resource and a point of reference to the influence of stages of play, and just knowing like this is a thing. This is a thing that exists out in the world. So, because we are visual people, I have this amazing visual that I found from Very Well, created by Joshua Siam. And we have an image of a classroom, what looks like to be a classroom. And each six social stages of play is depicted. So, let's see. So we have parallel play, which is 2 kids coloring next to each other. They look cute. We have unoccupied play where the girl is looking out the window and she's just like it's enjoying it's just enjoying the process of being, really. um and that, her looking out the window, that can also be like very visually stimmy, so it's fun. Like, she's probably looking at that butterfly that's out the window. There could also be a tree. Tangents. uh Solitary play is a little boy who's playing with what looks like dinosaurs and a robo person, and they're playing on their own. Onlooker play is a kid who's watching the other kids play. Associative play are two kids playing blocks next to each other. So you see how they're parallel, but they're still interacting with each other. And cooperative play is them playing a game where they're all like, the goal is to like meet the same goal. All right. Autistic kids are more likely to stay within the earlier stages of play, such as unoccupied play, individual play, and onlooker play, and as well as parallel play. We tend to have a harder time with associative play and cooperative play, but this is also dependent on the people and environment. Autism professionals usually pin this on development, which this can be the case, and it is important that we be patient of autistic development not reflecting the pace of typical development. There's also a lot of significance in the impact of sensory differences, confusing social expectations, and non accommodating people. Even within all of that context, there are still concerned that autistics aren't getting the need to know info from our preferred kinds of play, which I previously listed. When we are developing within the best scope of our monotropic minds, we explore creativity and share intimacy in ways that make the most sense to us, rather than non-autistic individuals insisting that autistics integrate into kinds of play that makes the most sense to neurotypical development. What we really need is for others to help us to understand the function of things and to be clear with expectations for our needs to be accommodated, sensory and otherwise, for boundaries to be taught to us, which are how to make them, how to uphold them, how to recognize them, and how to respect others, to be accepted as we are, and to not be blamed for the mistreatment that we experience, which, again, like, these are all things that go into why you are less likely to see autistic kids integrating into um, cooperative and associative play. It has been noted by several autistics that autistics are more likely to get in trouble and punished for simply not fitting in. And it's it's just as important to non-autistic kids to understand how to interact and treat autistics as it is for autistics to understand the function of others. Parallel play. So to the right of the screen, we have, again, an adorable picture. Knox and his friend, they are sitting next to each other. And to the left, his friend is sitting in front of blocks. Knox is sitting in front of a computer. And it looks like she could have been playing blocks. And then she just decided to look over. So what's really cool about play is that it's not rigid. So they could have easily been doing parallel play and then switched into some associative onlooker aspects. But I thought this was a great representation of two kids playing with each other. And again, parallel play is to play near rather than with. And although for many people, especially autistics, near can still be interpreted as with. And I understand that when it comes to concerns of whether or not parallel play is intimate, I would definitely say it is. It's like, will you be with me as I am right now? And from my experience, that takes a lot of vulnerability and trust. Um, whenever I engage in my natural forms of play, which more so lean into parallel play, and or just even like parallel interactions. Whenever I'm interacting with non-autistic people, they are like very surprised and comforted by the fact that they can just be themselves. So I encourage people to again explore the world through autistic lenses. Also, to add to that, this past year I had the great opportunity to put together my first Autistic Space event, as I mentioned before. Um, we put a lot of effort into making it accessible and safe for autistic individuals to just be and exist. And something that I was the most delighted to see, totally unplanned, was to witness how autistics would comfortably have access to accommodations that they would need. Well, that part was planned, but the while they were just like being in that space of being, observing how everyone was in their own world together. So one person could be rocking, and then the other person could be drawing. There'd be a conversation about like school or music, and there'd be like all of these parallel topics going on. And maybe to like the neurotypical lens, like there would be disconnection, but there was like closeness. And so it was, I am as I am, but I am as I am with you. And again, very vulnerable. I was absolutely delighted. And this is a part of why I suggest that if you have an autistic person in your life who doesn't have access to other autistic people, that you find that connection for them, because those relationships are really important for us to have, and to just know that there's nothing wrong with us. Okay, next slide. Exposure anxiety. The description for that is involuntary and compulsive avoidance, diversion, and retaliation responses. To the right of the screen, there is an image of a red bird in a grayish cage. So if you have ever heard of the amazing Donna Williams, she's the person who came up with this concept, and I'm just glad that my therapist was aware enough to know about her. Exposure anxiety is important to be aware of when it comes to play, because it can be what causes distress in autistics, especially autistic kids, and any kind of social confrontation, which further informs the importance of parallel play for autistic children. Many behaviorists believe that fits and meltdowns, which are not tantrums, and I'm sure someone else will present on that, um, they believe that those are behavioral things that need to be fixed, when what more than likely is happening is sensory overwhelm and exposure anxiety. Being mindful that these are not responses autistics can control, meaning that autistics should not be punished or forced because of the way our nervous system is responding. Um, and this really awesome video that I would suggest, like if you have access to YouTube, just like look up Donna Williams, and there's several videos, just like watch them all. In one of her videos, she talks about how, again, parallel play, being side by side instead of confronting face to face. Like even that just passiveness of being side by side is really important, because since autistics can be more tapped into our sense of nervous system that responds and reacts, it everyone it's very instinctual that when people are coming at you, that can be sensed as a threat. And so in order to lessen that appearance of threat, just be by them, let them be as they are, how they need to be, and be that near by them while they're doing that. um Next slide. To the right of the screen, we have a awesome sticker created by Jen White Johnson that says "Let Autistic Kids Play," and it's in like some pretty fun colors, like purples and pinks and oranges and reds. And Jen is actually the mother of the adorable Knox that we have been watching. She's an amazing graphic designer and an ally to the autistic community. So there's the hashtag Let Autistic Kids Play that we had used for some time for a while to be a part of discussions where we've observed that autistic kids are deprived of play. And I'm going to read the description I have under the Let Autistic Kids Play. Play is often used as a tool to prioritize teaching autistics how to fit in. This is not only damaging, but it's also counterproductive to healthy neurodevelopment. Most times, this is associated with compliance rather than development. And so, just adding to that, being mindful that play is not your tool to turn people into who you want them to be.